There hasn't been a new Star Wars movie released in several years, and I think we can all agree that one was pretty terrible. But the franchise lives on, in books and comics and Disney Plus series. I'm mainly going to focus on the last one of those in this video, as I haven't read any of the books and the comics were nothing really special this year. But watch out for the odd surprise along the way, as I reveal my top 5 Star Wars things of 2022. At 5, it's the Book of Boba Fett. I never really saw the appeal of Boba Fett. He has a lot of fans, but in the original trilogy, he never seemed to do much, besides have a cool costume and a memorable death. Maybe that's all it takes to become a cult character. Certainly the idea of a bounty hunter in Mandalorian armour doing cool missions all over the galaxy sounds like a great idea for a show. And that's why The Mandalorian is so popular. Well, that and Baby Yoda. But that show did bring Boba Fett back, and he even got his own spin-off out of it, which was nowhere near as good, frankly. Instead of an amoral kick-ass bounty hunter, Fett has become more of a cuddly uncle type. He takes over Jabba the Hutt's criminal empire, and rather than use it for fun stuff like drug smuggling and prostitution, he just tries to help the nice people of his town. The episodes that do tie in with The Mandalorian are actually really good, with some key character development for the main characters of that show. But the rest of the series is pretty inessential. At 4, Tales of the Jedi. This is a series of 6 15-minute animated shorts, which fill in some of the gaps in the Jedi's backstory. Half of the episodes are about Count Dooku, giving some insight into why he left the Jedi to become a Sith. And these are certainly interesting, as the character was never really given much backstory in the prequels. He just kind of came out of nowhere. The rest of the episodes are geared around Ahsoka Tano, who started out in the Clone Wars animation but has recently moved into live action. And this gives you a few more snippets of her story in its original format. Full disclosure, I haven't seen the Clone Wars series yet, mainly because it's about 500 episodes long, but I do plan on getting to it at some point. And if the animation style is anything like Tales of the Jedi, it's not nearly as bad as I was expecting. At 3, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I already made a video about this, but nobody watched it, so I'll put a link to it in the description. But to sum it up, Ewan McGregor's performance was excellent. Hayden Christensen was a bit underused, but his scene in the final episode made it all worthwhile. Young Princess Leia was really annoying, and the Inquisitors were pretty useless. There was lots of great fan service, but not really much of a story. At 2, Jedi Fallen Order. Yes, I know it didn't come out in 2022, but video games are really expensive nowadays, and it took this long for it to come down to a reasonable price. And there is a link, as this tells much the same story as Obi-Wan Kenobi, only in my view it does it a lot better. You play as a Jedi on the run from the Inquisitors, but your character is a lot less powerful than Obi-Wan, and he wasn't in any of the movies, so his fate remains up to you. There is also a Jedi turned Inquisitor, who starts off fighting the hero, but ends up helping him, much like Reva does in Obi-Wan Kenobi. With your character being a lot less powerful than Obi-Wan, you have a hard time fighting the Inquisitors, and absolutely no chance against Darth Vader. The downside is, it is a really hard game. I never really got the hang of the fighting, so I had to lower the difficulty level in order to finish the story. And the environments are a bit confusing. You have these huge 3D landscapes which are rather confusing to find your way around, and once you've got to the end, there's no way to fast travel back to the beginning. But the characters are a lot of fun, and the story has lots of twists and turns along the way to keep you interested. It's the closest they've come yet to making an actual Jedi simulator. There's a sequel coming next year, and a book telling the story of what happens between the two games. So I'm guessing at least one of those will make it to next year's list. At 1, Andor. I wasn't particularly looking forward to Andor, as I barely remember the character from Rogue One, but it was one of the better Star Wars movies of recent years, and this series allows the writer Tony Gilroy to build on the kind of gritty realistic tone that he established in that movie, and also in the Bourne movies as well. There's no Jedi or Sith, and barely any droids or aliens. Kids might well be bored silly, but for adults it's the most realistic Star Wars has ever been. It feels more like a big expensive HBO show than a Star Wars spin-off, with 12 episodes and a large cast of characters who have plenty of time to develop over the course of the series. The production design is noticeably better than the other shows as well. Ferrix feels like a living, breathing city. The prison is horribly convincing. And the lush locations that the Aldani episodes are filmed in brings an epic scope to the series. And not a desert planet in sight. Diego Luna is rather understated in the title role. His development from a petty criminal only out for himself to somebody who's willing to join up to the resistance happens mainly internally over the course of the series. But on the occasions where he does speak out, he acquits himself well. More impressive is Stellan Skarsgård as Luthen Rael, the pivotal figure in the rebellion, who seems to bring all the other characters together. And he's a lot more impressive here than he is in his Marvel roles, with several memorable speeches. In the prison episodes, Andy Serkis is also impressive. His character goes through a lot, only to find out at the very end that he can't escape after all, which is one of the most tragic endings in all of Star Wars. Season 2 is due in 2024, and for me, it can't come soon enough. And next week I'll be doing a similar countdown of Marvel's movies and TV shows in 2022. And there's rather a lot of them, so it could take a while. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to be sure to catch it, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Goodbye.